Hi, stats class. Sorry I couldn't be there today, but I just have a couple quick video lessons in which I will share, well, basically what we're going to be doing for today. It's in chapter two. Chapter one was all about one variable, and now in chapter two, we're looking at two. In the first lesson, we compared two categorical variables, and we're going to spend most of the rest of the chapter talking about quantitative variables. So you might be asking yourself, gosh, self, how are we going to compare these? There's two of them. Well, maybe it just comes down to this some nice scatter plots. A scatter plot has two variables here. I bet you could even tell which one is the explanatory and which one is the response. The horizontal variable is typically thought to be the independent variable in algebra. That would be the explanatory variable. The dependent variable, like the y values, are typically vertical. And here also, that is our response variable. So, actually, you guys have probably done scatter plots many times before. So, what's really new? The answer is not much. Okay, you got to be careful when you're doing this that you use a good scale. Please, once again, don't skip numbers. Don't go 10, 12, 14, and then skip to 20 just because there's no data there. Make sure that you are consistent with your usage and, plot things accurately, but it really is just going to be plotting points for an XY axis. And let's be honest, when you get right down to it, does it matter if we switch the explanatory and response variables? Usually it doesn't make much of a difference. Both of these graphs here represent the weight in pounds and the height in inches. The other one is height in centimeters and weight in kilograms. That's a little different. These are two different surveys. But if you look at them, they're generally the same. The actual direction of the graph is just about the same. So we're going to get more in depth in this. What makes a good scatter plot? Can you use it to predict things? Well, obviously, if all your dots are clumped together in one direction, that's a pretty good indication that you could maybe make some predictions about the future with that kind of information, that kind of data. But generally, what we're going to look at is how do we describe these things? And we have another silly acronym. This one's called DOFS. So I've got three graphs here. These are all very similar. They are all positive association for the three scatter plots. What that means is they all have a positive slope. That's pretty much what it means. I know the third one's kind of hard to tell. It's amorphous. It doesn't really have that. Um, but the first two do. They have a positive slope. So when we're talking direction, we're talking positive or negative direction. Are there outliers? Is there something sticking way out on the side? We'll look at an example of that. But these three graphs right here really don't have an outlier. Is it linear? Is it something else? You could have a scatter plot that looks quadratic or maybe exponential, possibly logarithmic. So generally, we'll stick with linear for now and we'll work our way up to some other types of graphs. But tell me, what is the form? What does it look like? And then basically, is it weak or strong or just kind of in between? A strong link looks like a straight line. The moderate looks mostly straight-ish. All the dots are pretty close. And then if they're all scattered willy-nilly, there's really not much association there at all. Here's one more graph. It has a negative association because it has a negative slope. There's probably, at least two outliers, maybe even a third. But for the most part, most of those dots are in pretty much a straight line. So there's moderate to strong strength there. So we've talked about the direction, which is negative. The outliers, there were two or three. It is linear and it is probably moderate to strong. So that would be how we would describe that one. Folks, that is basically it for the new information on Chapter 2, Lesson 2. So that doesn't seem too hard, but I'd like to go over how to do a scatter plot on some different types of technology. So stay tuned for our next video.